Yeah, Mad Panic Gaming!
Awesome!
Hey everybody, Jim here. Welcome back to Mad Panic Gaming for another glorious game hunting video today. For this video, was still in Tachikawa. I said in the last video that I go to Tachikawa once a year, and when I do go, I hit 3 game hunting spots while I'm there. So in the last video, we're at the big Book Off Super Bazaar they have there, and that was cool. I picked up some really good games. But for this video, directly after the Book Off Super Bazaar, and after hitting a little bit of Wendy's, I went down to the Surugaya that they have in Tachikawa. The Surugaya they have there, pretty impressive. It's a nice one. It's not like as big and as their flagship store, which I think is in Shizuoka. But it's a decent sized store. They have a lot of stuff there, a lot of collectibles and things aside from just video games. When it comes to games, they have a lot. Actually kind of hard to film one of these Surugaya videos just because there's so much there. It's hard to, like, what do you film? Like, there's so much. Do you want this video to be 5 hours long, Jim? No, not really. So you got to be kind of like selective. So there's a bit of filming, and then there's a bit of like taking mental notes of like, what do I want to buy? What do I actually want to take away from this place? Because their selection is great. The condition of the stuff is usually pretty good. But they usually have prices to match as well. There's some deals to be found, but Surugaya, it's a place for collectors. So, usually the prices, games are priced appropriately, applicably, I'll say that much. But anyway, you're going to see all that in the video, all the games I was looking at, the selection, the prices they had, and then come back at the end of the video. I'm going to take a look at my finds of the day. What are the best games I picked up today? You're going to find out. Also, we're sitting around now like 38,000, a little over 38,000 subscribers right now, which is awesome. Thank you everybody for subscribing. If it's your first time on the channel, you like what you see, consider giving us a sub. Hoping to hit 40K by the end of the year, which I'm thinking is doable. I think we can manage that. And if you really like the video, give us a like. It helps in the algorithms. But with that being said, enough of that nonsense, show of human emotion. Let's get into that Surugaya and let's take a look at some games.
Let's do it. It's go time.
All right. Once again, back in Tachikawa. On what was at first an overcast day, and then a very hot day. Actually, this is because I come once to turn in all my immigration stuff. Hey, it's Park Avenue, which is where the Surugaya is on the 3rd floor. Yeah, I have to actually make 2 trips here because I have to come and pick up some documents later on. And boy, did it get brutally hot. It wasn't pretty. Anyway, Surugaya, hey, there it is. The specialty store, and then it actually gives you directions to get to the register because they hid the son of a bitch in a back corner somewhere. And so before they had those little things on the floor, you would have had a hell of a time finding it. Anyway, we're going to get started. First time being back here in a year. Always curious to see how good or bad things have changed. We start out with some Neo Geo AES action. We got some of the usual suspects. We got some Fatal Fury 2 for $75.60. That's like $50 for a complete Fatal Fury 2. Cool books on the MSX. Well, how do you like that? And the X68000. Excuse me. 2, well, not consoles, but I've been toying around with emulation for both the MSX and the X68000. And there's some pretty cool stuff on there. I especially like anything you pick up for the MSX or the X68000. They're going to have these big, awesome boxes with this great cover art. Hey, Game Gear games and Wonder Swan. Sonic and Tails 2. Actually, Tails has his own dedicated game on the Game Boy. It's pretty fun. Some Dreamcast games, including, why the hell is that copy of Street Fighter 3 like 30,000 yen for Double Impact? That's insanity. And also the fluorescent lighting, in this case, is insanity. City Hunter on the PC Engine, great game. Last Resort, some Neo Geo CD action. Soldier Blade, Falsetta More, very cool. A handsome guy in the reflection there. So we got some, just a handful of PC Engine, some Mega CD. That's all very good. Some of these actually have reviews for going way back. Royal Rumble on the Genesis. Sonic and Knuckles, which paired with Sonic 3 is my favorite Genesis game, at least as for now. We got some more Mega Drive stuff in there, including Tatsujin. That's awesome. Super Street Fighter 2. Actually, multiple copies of Super Street Fighter 2. Not exactly the least expensive games you're going to come across. And why the hell not some loose Super Famicom games, including Turtles, Macross, Cat's Run, which we saw in the previous video. It's a fun little racing game, if I do say so myself. Although the last place had a box copy, and it was like $100 and something bucks. So for a game about like racing around in crappy economy cars, it's a little expensive these days, you know what I mean? And we got some loose Famicom carts as well, including Battletoads. Dunk Heroes is now $13,400. Good sweet lord. I actually have a box copy of that at home I still haven't gotten rid of yet. I'm gonna be a rich man. Finally. What do you think I've been doing all this for? My health? Nah, I'm all about the money. We got some PS2 stuff here. Ooh, including, what is that? Kunoichi, the Red Ninja, 14,000 some odd. Not getting any cheaper. And then some other stuff. I have no idea what the hell I'm looking at with, half this stuff. What is this? If you're down in the comments, well, Lane, I know Lane. Hey, Symphony of the Night on the PS1. That's not getting any cheaper. It's about a $70 game. Well, between 60 and 70 these days. There's that handsome guy again. There's that man again. And then some of this stuff, which looks like if you buy it, you end up on some kind of list. I don't know. I hope it's a short list. 22-1 for Radiant Silver Gun on the Saturn. And can I be honest with you? Not the biggest fan of Radiant Silver Gun. We got some other Saturn games here, some good looking stuff. We got Waku Waku 7. That's very cool. Rockman 8. Was that Marvel versus Marvel Superheroes versus Capcom? It's kind of obsolete after Marvel versus Capcom came out, but that's okay. We got some of the handheld stuff as well. Some DS, some Game Boy. That's pretty cool. Getting less and less common to find stuff like that these days. The King of Fighters Game Boy game, that's pretty cool. We got some Rockmans, some puzzle games. Final Fight 1 on the GBA. It's about an $80 game right there. All by its lonesome. And more. I find that handhelds are kind of an overlooked. A lot of this stuff, I come and find this for other various people. And the least commonly requested stuff is handheld stuff. We got some good box Famicom stuff in here, though. We've got Rockman back there, Rockman 4, I believe. Some Final Fantasy action. Some Turtles, Manhattan Project, my favorite. Mighty Final Fight. Oh my god, they have a copy of Hagane. 42,800 yen. So that's about 300 doll hairs. That ain't cheap. Felina? What else? I don't know. Some Twinbee. I am just the most educated person on all this stuff, aren't I? Isn't that what you want when you come to watch one of these game hunting videos? A guy telling you he doesn't know what the hell he's looking at. Alright, so that was the case. Obviously the case is always the case. It's gonna be full of really expensive stuff. But then here, let's get started with some Super Famicom. Just look at this. A nice big shelf full of boxed games, and then they had a ton of loose carts as well. Not as interested in loose carts right now as I am these sweet boxed deals. $3,500 for East 4, Mask of the Sun. Which, yeah, there are a few East games on the Super Famicom. At least 3, 4, and 5. I know a lot of East fans don't really care so much for 5, because 5 is kind of a Zelda clone. But then again, 3 is this little side-scrolling action platformy RPG kind of game. They're, the East games are not all uniform. I know people like the bump attack thing, but we can deviate a little bit, can't we? $5,500 on Wolfenstein 3D, The Claw of Eisenfaust. That's cool. Don't see that too often, and that's not like too terribly expensive. $5,500, that's like, I don't know, less than 40 bucks for a boxed Wolfenstein. That's in the maybe pile. I don't know. You'll have to find out later. But you know, I do like Wolfenstein, although my first experience with a first-person shooter was in fact Doom 2, which my little eyes could hardly believe what they were seeing at the time. Fire Pro Wrestling Special. Now you might be wondering what's so special about it. And the answer to that remains a mystery, because I really don't know. But the Fire Pro Wrestling games, they're pretty cool. Usually, like, that's the argument people have. Like, when you talk about best wrestling game of all time, they're just like, well, which Fire Pro Wrestling game do you pick? $15.20 though, really inexpensive for a complete copy of this, and they had several copies, and then Super Fire Pro 3. So yeah, the Fire Pro games, great. I remember really getting into Fire Pro Returns on the PS2. Had a lot of fun with that. 4410 with like a bunch of stickers on it for some Super Adventure Island. So damage to pretty much everything. But 4410, it's like 30 bucks for a complete Super Adventure Island. That ain't bad. See, here's the thing. If you come to a shop like this with the intention of buying like 2 or 3 games, I think you're good. But it's pretty well known I have the tendency to buy in bulk. 1440 on Far East of Eden 0. So there you go. Fortunately, I don't get a lot of requests for RPGs. And Dragon Ball Z Super Butoden 3, 3340. Which, yeah, that's kind of a thing. Seeing the Super Butoden games get a little more expensive as years go by. These used to be your quintessential, like, $3 games. But yeah, and I mean, it's DBZ, so I guess it kind of makes sense. Like, that's a series with a big fandom. And that makes like those games, I guess, more collectible. So even though like I'm hard pressed to find like a shop that I go to that has retro games that does not have a copy of the Super Butoden games. But hey, there you go. Poppin' Twinbee Rainbow Bell Adventure for $49.20, which is a fantastic game. Actually has parallels to Rocket Knight with the jump booster gauge thing, but it's a lot of fun. Great graphics, really good soundtrack, nice little deviation from the Twinbee series of shoot 'em ups. We get ourselves a nice platformer, and then of course Tetris Battle Gaiden, $25.50 here for a box copy. Which actually, this is a game that went down in price over the years. I can remember when they used to be like 50 bucks a pop. Now they're more like in the range of 15 to 20. So that ain't bad. And some Tiny Toons. I believe this is the Acme Acres something or other. But like a big collection of mini games and stuff. Which I prefer the platformers. Actually, the Sega Genesis Tiny Toons game. What is it? Buster's something or other? I don't know. But that's my favorite one. Wow, I'm really articulating very well here. 2000 on just vanilla Street Fighter 2. Which is in really good shape, like surprisingly good shape, honestly. So 2,000 yen, cost you about 12 bucks. That ain't so bad. And what else we got? This, interesting find. I know this was recently got an actual like SNES release. Shubiban Man Zero. It's been available on the Super Famicom for several years. Not a particularly good game. Like, it's not bad. I know it was originally, I think, just like a Satellaview game. It didn't have a physical release. Columbus Circle released it on the Super Famicom. Someone else, maybe like Retrobit or somebody, released an SNES version. It's okay. 3660 there, so it's like 25 bucks. So it's an okay game. It's not great. I wouldn't spend more than like 20 bucks on it. 4,100 for Ganbare Goemon 4. And that's another one. Like, no matter where I go, no matter where it is, if they've got retro games, they've got some Goemon. And then 1,200 on Fatal Fury Battle of Destiny in good shape. That's actually a little cheaper than the book off we were just at. So Surugaya, that's one in your win column there. And we got it at Gradius 3, 2090 yen. Which the box is a little ratty, as you can see. But it's Gradius 3. It's, I'd say it's aged pretty well, wouldn't you? So for about, what is that, like 12 bucks, get yourself some Gradius 3 in the box. Kind of hard to argue with that. We got some Crayon Shinchan, Fatal Fury 2, more Goemon, Captain Tsubasa, Chrono Trigger, complete in box. For 42.10. That's, okay. For a game that's fairly common, I think that's overpriced. But Chrono Trigger, what can I say? This is the game that pretty much got me into RPGs. I borrowed a few from a friend of mine who him and his brother really liked RPGs. I'd never played one in my life. So the first one I played was actually Mystic Quest, because my friend said it was a game for beginners. And then he loaned me this and Final Fantasy 6 and 4, or 2 and 3. Which I like the Final Fantasy games just fine, but Chrono Trigger was the one that really did it for me. So without that game, I might not have played any RPGs after that. Fatal Fury 2 on the Super Famicom, 2190. It's got kind of a cool dual cover as opposed to just a bunch of screenshots and stuff on the back. I like that. You know, what else we got? Speaking of, we got some Final Fantasy, we got some Puzzle Bobble, Panel Dip-On, Bahamut Lagoon. Yes. So much stuff. And Breath of Fire, which actually didn't play a Breath of Fire game until, I think, Breath of Fire 3 on the PS1. Finally got around to playing that when I was getting PS1 games as a kid. And enjoyed it. Turning into dragons is cool. What else we got? I'm kind of glossing over. I'm perusing, if you will. Trying to spot like those sweet gems. Not me, not Jim, but like GEM. 4180 for this reproduction of Cotton 100% by Columbus Circle. I like Cotton 100%. Good game. The original Super Famicom game is a little bit more expensive these days. Probably in like the $100 range, but I'm pretty sure you can just play this now on, like, it got a re-release on modern consoles. So it's like it's on the Switch, and I think probably like the PS4 as well. So you don't really need a Super Famicom reproduction. I don't know. 7,500 on Zelda, though. What the hell happened to, like, Zelda in Japan? Like, it's Zelda. Like, there's, like, copies of it everywhere. But for some reason, box copies of that game, they demand quite a bit these days. But plenty of copies of Star Fox, a ton of Bomberman games, which is all well and good. Seiken Densetsu 3. And we've got some Super Ginjin, $34.30. So that's probably in the neighborhood of, like, I don't know, $23, $24 for some Super Bonk. And they do have both of them, the first and the second, speaking of. And $3,200, so like 20 bucks for a complete copy of Super Bonk. And kind of hard to argue with that. Anyway, let's keep going on. Find some more of those gems. You found them. I wonder, could I do something like that's very punny, like since my name is Jim, and that became such like a prevalent thing with retro gamers. It's a hidden gem. I'm a hidden gem, damn you. 4,600 on Final Fight. Complete in box. Some big intimidating characters in there. Oh my god. Well, everybody's a tough guy till they take a pile driver or a German suplex. Then they're not so tough. I found that out. Not literally, of course. I mean, I found that out playing video games. Facing down this bad guy, and then you perform a pile driver, and that's all she wrote, pretty much. Front Mission Gun, 2140 on Front Mission Gun Hazard. That is a very good price on what is an awesome game. This does have an English fan translation now. I don't know if they're going to do like reproduction carts or there's been some kind of digital release. It's awesome though. It's Front Mission, but it's an action platforming shooting game in the same vein as like Cybernator or something. So I like it a lot. Japan exclusive. But like I said, it does have an English fan translated like ROM now. And even if you want to like a complete copy, $21.40. So that's like $13 maybe, $14 US. Still very inexpensive. So you would be happy with that. What else we got, Jim? Where are we going? What are we doing? What are you doing? Why are you still... Okay, 5,400. Going off on a tangent. Super Gusen all Yo-Yo. Another bit, one of those quote-unquote hidden gems of the Japanese Super Famicom library. You got to stack up blocks so this little guy can get to an exit, and it's kind of fun, but it's also one of the most frustrating experiences I've ever had with a game, because he just kind of wanders in this direction, that, and he's gonna die. He's gonna die many, many times. So you got to get accustomed to seeing that cute little guy just bite it over and over again. And he doesn't just bite it; he drowns. It's horrible. 2110 on Super R-Type, which again, for a complete copy of Super R-Type, 2110, $13, $14 in that range. That is pretty damn good. And for 4,000 yen, Muscle Bomber, the Body Explosion. Which, despite how the title sounds, yeah, it's a wrestling game. It's not, there's nothing devious going on. And some Mickey Magical Adventure, 2,200. So another game that's like under 15 bucks to buy a complete copy. So, you know, Surugaya, price-wise, not all bad. 1,260 Yu Yu Hakusho. 5,700 though on Yu Yu Hakusho Final. That is the least common of the four though. And some Rockman 7, 6,300. Which I know 7 and 8 are not like everyone's favorites. I like them though. They're good games. I know my buddy Dennis is a big proponent of 7 because I'm a bigger fan of X. And 7 has some X tendencies to it. So you can't really argue with that. We've got some Ranma 1/2 as well. My favorite ever anime about a dude turns into a chick. Dude looks like a lady. Actually, one of my students, we had a conversation about Ranma, and they came back the next week. They had gotten me a Ranma keychain out of a gachapon machine. Oh my god! Rushing Beat. Which that cover, it doesn't quite match Rival Turf, does it? Look at those badasses right there. Brad and Tony, or whatever the hell. You don't mess with them guys. They're pretty damn tough. Russian Beat or not. I wouldn't want to tangle with those dudes. Because they look pretty bad. Badder than the bad dudes, that's for sure. Had a bunch of loose carts as well. So I browsed those just a little bit. But for the most part, I had made up my mind on what box games I wanted. And I was ready to move on to some other consoles, which we will do in just a second. After a short reprieve. We'll be right back. And now, for the other stuff. Alright. Mostly Sega stuff, some PlayStation, and some PC Engine. So plenty to sink our teeth into. We got some loose PC Engine Hue cards here, which I typically gloss over. People don't typically want like something that came in a jewel case initially and then it's loose. Not so much. We got some Mega CD games, including some Cosmic Fantasy, and the classic 1720 for a copy of Night Trap. Surprisingly enough, a game that did not fly off the shelves in Japan, I'm guessing. But it does, it was re-released, right? Like, you can buy it on modern consoles if you really want to. Actually, also, like, I mean, Sega CD emulation is extremely easy and good. So, you know, do what you do. 2030 on a copy of Lunar, which, again, plug, hint, recently made a top 10 list of Sega CD games, threw Lunar in there. Final Fight CD, 5180 was not in my top 10. I should have done an honorable mentions, though. Final Fight CD would have gotten in there. Doom on 32X, that's the second shop in a row we've been to where they've had a complete Doom 32X. And some old like Mark III games and stuff. Actually, that's something I should probably get into. Speaking of emulation, I don't have actually like a Mark III or anything at home. But I know anything like that, you can just emulate so easily. I got some Mega Drive games here. 4580 for Strider. Pretty cool. And we've also got Columns. We've got Joe Montana Sports Talk Football. A game where there's speech. They talk. We're living in the future. 7180 Dragon Ball Z Buu-Retsuden with a really cool cover. And if you've never played it, it's basically the Mega Drive version of Super Butoden. If you've never played Super Butoden, it's a game. It has Dragon Ball Z characters in it. And they fight. So, yeah. Not too shabby. Although, there's some debate which is the best. I think Super Butoden 2, most people would agree, is kind of the cream of the crop there. But then Hyper Dimension came along and changed all that. Thunder Force 3. Fantastic game. I like it a lot, but I like Thunder Force 4 better. Which Thunder Force 4 a little more difficult, but amazing soundtrack, phenomenal graphics. We got some 3DO games here, including Sailor Moon, what have you, and a whole bunch of Wonder Swan, which is neat. $39.90 for some Puyo Puyo on the Wonder Swan. That's something else that's like I said earlier. I don't get a ton of requests for like handheld stuff. But usually when I do, it's like old school Game Boy. Wonder Swan, something, I don't know. People are not too hyped on Wonder Swan. There's some PCFX games there, which I've said before, I really don't care for the PCFX. And something by Compile, but it's on the MSX2. So whatever the hell this is, it's on the MSX. And there's a couple of them. Actually, there's a bunch of MSX games here, including the original Goonies. From Konami 1986, 3800. That's pretty cool. I think I said earlier, like MSX, X68000, all those like Japanese PCs, old PCs in general, because I've been emulating some Amiga as well. But like stuff like this is like why it's fun to play around with emulation from like that like time period. You can play all kinds of stuff you never played before, and some of it is pretty damn cool. A lot of it is just straight trash. Like, it is unplayable crap. But you do occasionally find games that are pretty good games, or they're just so damn weird that they're kind of fascinating. So even though you're not really having a whole lot of fun with it, you're enjoying it. Some Sailor Moon stuff on the PC Engine. Which these are all like visual collections and visual novels and things. They're not my cup of tea. If I'm playing Sailor Moon, then by gum, I want to be punching and kicking the hell out of everything that moves. 7,000 for some Bonk, and 1580 Puyo Puyo CD, which is just fine. And some Momotaro, which is a series I never really got into. Though I know some people like it a lot. Yokai Dochuki. There's some damage to this, that, and the other, but it's still $15.80. It's still like a $10 game. So that's nice, because Yokai Dochuki, not a terribly complex game, but still pretty fun. 2070. And Ranma 1/2. This is actually the visual novel game. There are 3 Ranma PC Engine CD games. 2 of them being fighters, and then 1 of them being, whatever the hell. A little bit of Neo Geo, including some Gekka no Kenshi 6400, The Last Blade. And I'll say this. I really enjoy the Last Blade games. I love them. And, I like anything Neo Geo. The Neo Geo CD version, absolute worst way to play these games. The load times and the amount of loading screens is mind-numbing. It's like a kick in the balls. Get the Dreamcast version. It's much, much better. And Dunk Dream 6400, aka I forget now what the North American title is, but I do like Dunk Dream a lot. One of my favorite basketball games. 3770 for some Fatal Fury Special PC Engine CD, which is a good, decent enough conversion. I like that. I like the Sega CD version. 4380 for some Ginpei Tomaden, which I believe this is the second game, and I do believe it is available on the North American TurboGrafx as Samurai Ghost. Which it's not like a great game. Like, I prefer the first one, but it's okay. It's a time when Namco was making stuff like that, and Splatterhouse, and some cool, little action games. East 3, East 1 and 2. The East games not terribly expensive on the PC Engine. This though was a big find. 7160, so about $50 for Asuka 120% Maxima Burning Fest. This is one of those games you expect to see in the display case, because it's an uncommon late release PC Engine game. I think it came out in 1995, and it's pretty good. Like, there are not many fighting games on the PC Engine, and even fewer ones that are like worth playing. But yeah, like Asuka, like, you can't go wrong with that. So it's uncommon. It's a good game. And the price was right, because usually that's, 7,000. Yeah, usually see it for closer to 10. Final Zone 2, 4670. Another one of those, I was going to say renovation, not renovation, I don't know. But it's an okay little run and gun. Legend of Xanadu, 1100. That's the thing. If you're going to get into collecting some of these Japanese games, and there goes something, oh boy. You break it, you bought it, Jim. But yeah, if you're going to get into collecting these Japanese games, I mean, take a few Japanese lessons and learn how to play some of these RPGs, you'll be fine. What did I drop? Doraemon. Okay. But it looks like it survived, so I don't have to buy Doraemon if I don't want to. What else we got here? This, also another big find, 2800, which the case was a little grody, but 2800 on a copy of Sidearms Special. That's a pretty damn good deal. That's like $20 for Sidearms Special, because the case is a little crappy. I mean, I can handle that. I can clean the case up. I can perhaps replace it, cannibalize the case of a cheaper game or something. But yeah, Sidearms Special. Damn fine game. So that was one of those ones where, like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my god, the price is right. I'm getting that. 6,900 on Psychic Storm. The price is wrong, bitch. Actually, Psychic Storm, decent enough game, but right now you can buy it. I think it's the Telenet Shooting Collection. So you can just get that game along with a handful of other ones like Gaiares for, not too much money. And we also have Slime World, which, in case you didn't know, is a game that exists. It is Slime World. Which I dabble in the slime every once in a while. I always, always this like false excitement. I see this Macross. This is not the cool Macross shooter. That's Macross 2036, I think, is always the one I'm thinking of. This is like the other Macross game. And some more of these RPGs. They're, 1,000 yen or less. 1,000 yen for some Kunio-kun Soccer, and 6540 on some Cho Aniki, which itself, like this first Cho Aniki game, is a decent enough game. It's a fun enough shoot 'em up, decent visuals. The sound design is weird as hell, though. I mean, it's no secret. I don't know what the hell, like, who made this? Like, hey, let's make a shooter, but let's make it just like balls out weird as hell and extremely homoerotic. So there you go. It's an experience, Sometimes a guy wants to play shooter, and he also wants to watch big muscle men shoot fireballs out of their heads. I don't know what the hell. All right, and then to this aisle. And this aisle is going to kind of wrap it up for us. This is the aisle. On the one side, it was just like all PlayStation stuff, pretty much. We got a nice little Rockman section here. We got some Battle and Chase, some Dash, which in case you didn't know is Mega Man Legends, and some X4 and Rockman 8 for 2020 yen. I myself, big proponent of Rockman 8. I'd put it in my top 5 Mega Man games, honestly. A lot of people hate on that game, but what can you do? This, on the other hand, this game makes me want to shit my pants. It's The Crow, Shitty of Angels. Good God. Get that out of here. I don't know why I even put that in front of the camera. This, though, Vampire Hunter D, this is a game that I was hyped for it when it was announced way back in the day, because I loved both of the animated features. It got horrible reviews. I rented it and played it anyway, and enjoyed it. You can call it fandom, I don't care. Hey, Puzzle Fighter. But I actually liked Vampire Hunter D on the PS1. It was a tank controlling game, but you fight things with a sword, you suck up their souls. And it's Vampire Hunter D, and it had the same characters from Bloodlust. It had Meyer Link and all those other cool characters. I wasn't complaining. We got a lot of stuff. We got Blue Chicago Blues for $12.20. A little text adventure. This, very cool, 11:30 on Motor Tune 2, which I believe was released in the US as just Motor Tune Grand Prix. It's actually the second game. I really like this game. It's one of those kart racers without being a kart racer. Like, you're not, literally in go-karts, but it plays exactly like a kart racer would. There are a bunch of games like that are like spiritual kart racers. It's like Motor Tune and NASCAR Rumble, stuff like that, where they were like, you know what? We will copy the Super Mario Kart formula. We just won't have them literally in go-karts. And I think we'll be pretty safe. All right, what else we got here? More PS1 goodness. Which PS1... It's down to the PS1 and the SNES for like my favorite console of all time. Probably goes to PS1 though. 7200 on Gunmu Martian Memory. I sing the praises of this game. It's so cool. It's not like the best looking or playing game or whatever, but it's like a cool action RPG, and it's Battle Angel. Like, if you are a fan to any degree of Battle Angel Alita, I think this is like the only game ever made based on it, and it's very faithful to the manga. I don't know if there's a fan translation available now or if it's in the works, but this is one of those ones. As you can see, it's getting a little more expensive now. It's about $50. So if you want to get a copy, now might be the time, but it's a pretty cool game. Some King of Fighters, some Street Fighter Collection, which is actually the first way I ever played Super Turbo. 900 on some Street Fighter 03, so still very cheap. And Guyford, which is a more oddball Capcom game, kind of FMV style. That's one where it makes sense it didn't get a release outside of Japan. I don't know if that would have worked out, but we got Dino Crisis, which I still love to this day, but I was especially in love with it as a kid. I mean, Tomb Raider, what the hell am I saying? Resident Evil with dinosaurs, can't go wrong. Some Tronbon, Tomb Raider 2, trapping the guy in the freezer was like really the only thing I liked doing in that game. 900 on the original Tekken, which is a game as a kid blew me away, and I mean blew me away. I thought it was the best looking video game would ever be. Some Xevious 3D and G+, so it's got 4 variations of Xevious on it, which I like my Xevious. I'm a Xevious kind of guy. Xevious and Xenogears. That's certainly great. And Vigilante 8, the first one. I think I mentioned this before, that those are way more common to come across in Japan than Twisted Metal. We got some Initial D, the original, and it's only 900 yen, so that's a good deal. It's like $5. Yeah, for a long time, I didn't even think the Twisted Metal games had a Japanese release because of just like how uncommon it is to come across them. 5800 on Wolf Fang. Super fun. I believe Data East arcade game. An arcade, just how I like some. Just shoot the hell out of everything with your big robot. And honestly, I think if every game was like that, that might be okay, right? Like, just put a big robot in it that just shoots the hell out of everything, and your game is just that much better. I had recently played like Neo Turf Masters, for example. Everyone was like, this is the best game ever. And I played it, and I was like, no, it isn't. Throw a big robot in there that shoots all the golfers, and then, we'll talk. But for now, my opinion, it stands firm. 4200, X-Men versus Street Fighter EX Edition. The EX is for, somehow translates to, this is not as good as its Sega Saturn counterpart. And some SNK. This missed, so kind of a cool story. I was talking to a guy in a bar once, and we brought up video games, and he told me he never liked video games ever, except he played one in his whole life that he actually liked, and he could not remember the name of it. And he described it to me, and then eventually we came to the conclusion that it was Myst. It was the only video game he ever liked in his whole life. 2370, Samurai Spirits RPG. Some other stuff. I don't know what the hell that is. We got Star Gladiator 1120. Love this game, although now, is it the second game, Star Gladiator 2 or Plasma Sword, that's going to be released in like that Capcom Fighting Collection that's coming out? And 2380 on G Darius. That's good, actually. 2380, that comes out to about $15 or so. And that's a really good deal on one of the better shoot-'em-ups on the PS1. That's something worth maybe a video in the future. PS1 does have some pretty cool shoot-'em-ups on it. Some of them are a little more obscure or maybe deviate in the gameplay a little bit. G Darius, though, just more so just classic, really good Darius. I think you get these like capture balls, which are pretty cool. They're like Pokeballs, except for big fish spaceship things. So that ain't bad. Anyway, that was a whole hell of a lot of PlayStation games, wasn't it? Don't you think it's about time for some Sega action, some Saturn, and some Dreamcast and what have you? So we're going to start off with a whole bunch of crap. I don't know what the hell it is. Dating sims, I'm assuming. I don't have to sim dates. I go on real dates. That's right. That's how cool I am. Except Pretty Fighter. I don't know. I think I played the one on the Super Famicom, and it sucks. So I'm just going to assume that the Saturn one sucks, too. And they have like 4 copies of it. Pretty Fighter X. The X is for don't play this game because it sucks. Ultraman. And then, this is nice. This warms my heart. Vampire Hunter is still cheap. $8, $10, $1,000 there. So it's still like a $5 game. So as long as that remains the case, I think all is right with the world. I don't know about you. 6260 on X-Men vs. Street Fighter, though again, that new collection just came out, so it's kind of superfluous. 5300, and they had like 3 copies of Guardian Heroes. Great game. Yeah, 3 copies of it, so can it really be that uncommon? That's a pretty popular Saturn game in Japan. I see it pretty commonly when I'm perusing Saturn games. Good game. I don't think it's as great as most people say. 820 on Christmas nights. Only this winter. Which usually around Christmas time, I will bust out the Christmas nights. Just for some old Christmas nostalgic-y feels, as they say. 2530. So under $20 for Clockwork Knight. Which I think... Well, it wasn't a launch title. Or was it? I don't know. Was it a Saturn launch title? I don't know. 6800, though, on Q-Tenkai by Technosoft, best known for their shoot-'em-ups. But here we have a very fun, cute, little like fantasy video pinball game. So I do like Q-Tenkai. It is a game that is going up in price slowly but surely. I mean, when I first discovered this game, it was like, I don't know, 14 years ago. 14 or 13 years ago. So yeah, in the interim, in 13 years, yes, the price has gone up. Which is shocking, I know. But we can all agree on one thing. It's my fault. I did it. I bought stock in old-ass Sega Saturn games, and now I'm really raking it in. 5860 for some Parodius action. And then 1980 on KOF 96. That ain't too bad. 4540 though on 97. That's getting up there. And then some Sonic Jam. 3380. The radar, sir. It appears to be Sonic jammed. In case you didn't know, Sonic Jam. What kind of jam? Raspberry. Most people they don't suspect it's raspberry. Everyone's like strawberry. Actually, I remember being a kid really liking strawberry jam, like on my toast and biscuits. Being at a friend's house and asking if they had some strawberry. They were always putting grape on it. The hell you doing? Grape is for friggin' PB&J sandwiches, not a damn toast. 1050. This is another one. Puts a big smile on my face. Sakura Wars Columns. I mean, really fun game. Fantastic puzzler. One of the best puzzlers on the Saturn, which the Saturn has quite a few. Despite that fact, how good it is, and it's this kind of like high-profile series, Sakura Wars, 1,050 yen. So it's still like a $7 game. So, like, that really makes me happy. When I can find games, that's an actual deal. A really good game at a good price. I'll take that. Yes, I will. I'll take that to the bank. Along with my huge sacks of money for making retro game hunting videos. And we got some Street Fighter. Real battle on film. Clearly the best Street Fighter game ever made. I will accept no arguments to the contrary. Alright, what else we got? Some Darius Gaiden. Hey, it's still only like 3,000 yen. 4760 on Darius 2. This is fine. Darius Gaiden is the better game. 900 on Virtual On. Had some fun playing Virtual On at the arcade recently. Now that I think about it. That's right. Envy me. I get to go to the arcade. Nights into Dreams. 1,200. So still a cheap game on the Saturn. And again, that's kind of the test. Like, if you go somewhere and they got some copies of Nights into Dreams, if the price is right on that, then you could probably find some decent deals in there somewhere. Nights, I can remember a time when just the simplicity of, like, wow, a game in 3D and you can, like, move around. You can move up and down and not just, like, left and right or whatever. Yeah, simpler times. When a game simply just had to let you move in a 3D space. And you were happy with that. So yeah, Nights. Groundbreaking game. And then Baku Baku Animal, 1780. Another fun, decent, and decently priced Sega Saturn puzzle game. In fact, between that and like the magical drop games and all this other stuff... Yeah, Virtua Fighter Kids. That's swell, Jim. That's very nice. Thank you. Puzzle Bobble 2X, 1,500. That's what I'm saying. Get some puzzle games, folks. They're cheap as hell. They're all like $10 or less. You can get Columns, you can get Bubble Bobble, you can get Puyo Puyo, and some Baku Baku Animals. You can get everything for next to nothing. We got Biohazard. We officially have Biohazard. And some Poketo Fighter for 3,780 yen. Awesome game. Of course, that's already... I mean, again, a lot of this stuff has been ported in one fashion or another to modern consoles. We got the Magical Drop games. Magical Drop 1, Magical Drop 2. Those are always fun. And obviously much, much cheaper than their Neo Geo counterparts. And Fighter's History Dynamite, which I like a lot. And then we've got actually a few copies of Layers Section. They're all these like greatest hits versions. You know, fair enough. Layers Section, one of my favorite Saturn shooters. But with the Ray's Arcade Chronology, you can just get the entire series on your modern consoles. And they look and play fantastic. Waku Waku 7, 5370. By Sunsoft. Fun fighting game for sure. Really great visuals, like obnoxiously colorful, and a soundtrack that's pretty awesome too, where like it's not common for like a fighting game stage themes to actually have vocals to go along with them, but you get that in Waku Waku 7 and a whole lot more. But that's a really good fighter. 5370 here, so that's like, I don't know, $38. We got some other good stuff here. Game Tengoku with the VHS. They had 3 copies of that. You would accuse me of hoarding retro games? What Surugaya has got all the... They've got all the Game Tengoku VHSs. What the hell? Vigilante 8, Second Offense, Dreamcast version. Damn fine game. Love me some Vigilante 8. And Vampire Chronicle, there's that man again. 5,500 on Vampire Chronicle. Again, fantastic. But again, all the Vampire games got released as part of the first Capcom Fighting Collection. So what are you going to do? 1730 on Capcom vs. SNK. We got some Sakura Wars. We got some King of Fighters with 2000, with Evolution 99, and 2001. Which, you know, though you can argue about the dip in quality when they switched over to just being Play More, lost some people. 1520 for this Shenmue 2. That's something else you can always count on. Shenmue is like dirt cheap. 950 for this one. And it comes with the jukebox disc, so it's got some music on it as well. It's got this like nice sleeve. Shenmue was one of those games where like the advertising, the hype was so massive that I think the sales corresponded. Star Gladiator 2, 5880, and what Zoids, whatever the hell that was. Sentimental Graffiti. Get the hell out of here with your dating sim junk shenanigans. I don't know. I'm railing against dating sims right now. I don't know what the hell. I mean, I didn't really mean it, by the way. If I offended anyone with a thing for dating sims, it's just, you know, I don't need those. You know, I go on an actual date. That's what I do. We got some Sonic games, including Sonic Adventure for 1,000 yen, and then Sonic Adventure International, I think, which I think it just has like multiple language options. It's like when they re-released Shenmue. There's a US Shenmue version, which is the same game, just has multiple language options. It's essentially the North American version. We got Dino Crisis for 3,070, which any of the Capcom survival horror games, Dino Crisis, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, they're fantastic on the Dreamcast. My favorite versions of those games, honestly. And speaking of, 3,030 for Code Veronica, which is overpriced. Should not be that much. 1,450 though on Puyo Puyo 4. That's a really good price on that. Yeah, like I said, the puzzle games, I don't know what it is. There's a lack of interest. But if you find any puzzle games on the Saturn, the Dreamcast, the PS1, whatever it is, almost all of them are like cheap. They're like $10 or less. So Puyo Puyon, that's one to look out for if you're picking up Dreamcast games. And then Puyo Puyo Da, which I think is like a rhythm game. It has really nothing at all to do with Puyo Puyo, but I think they carry over the characters. So that's at least kind of cute. But yeah, so we're winding down on these Dreamcast games. A handful more. Mr. Driller. Can't go wrong with that. 1230. But it's got all this, you know, rando stuff wrong with it. When it's like, the manual is damaged, and the disc is damaged, and the case is damaged. $12. And 3540 for MVC2 again. We're getting that killer collection coming up, so what is even the point, I ask you? Anyway, that's a bunch of games. Let's go back to the couch and see what I got. Let's get out of here. All right, and we're back. What'd you think of that? Did I or did I not say they had a lot of games that Surugaya actually didn't even film everything. It's just my wrist was kind of like killing me, and then some of the lower shelves, those low down shelves, that's not made for someone who stands 6 foot 1 inch tall. It really isn't made for me. So that, you know, does a number on my knees and my back. Old man Jim, right? Getting too old for this shit. Anyway, after I put the camera away, I went back around, because while I'm filming, I'm kind of like making mental notes, setting some games aside, what I want to take home with me. And then there's some stuff that I didn't even film. But when I go to, you know, one final look over, I go, oh, they have this. And so that's how we end up with stuff like this in my finds of the day, because I did come across a section. I didn't actually film it, but they had Game Boy games, lots and lots of Game Boy games. I just, you know, lazy Jim, didn't feel like getting the camera back out, but I did pick up this Ghostbusters 2 on the Game Boy, complete and in fantastic shape, I might add. If you have not played Ghostbusters 2 on the Game Boy, it's essentially a Game Boy port, or a sort of port of new Ghostbusters 2 on the Famicom and also on the NES in the UK, I believe. I think it was only released like in a PAL. It was never released in North America. And if you don't know what new Ghostbusters 2 is, it is a much better Ghostbusters 2 game than what was released in North America. Fun top-down ghost-busting game. You choose two characters. One uses the proton pack, one uses the trap. Very simple two-button gameplay made by HAL Laboratories, so how can you go wrong with that? So yeah, this is essentially the Game Boy version of new Ghostbusters 2. Plays more or less the same. You got your two characters. Actually, now I'm gonna have to record the footage later. I know in the Famicom and NES version, you can actually play as Lewis. So you have 5 Ghostbusters to play with. I'm wondering, do they include Lewis in the Ghostbusters, the Game Boy version? Not 100% sure. I'm gonna have to, when I'm like capturing footage later, I'll have to find out. But yeah, a lot of fun, very simple little game, very cute. For the Game Boy version, nice looking little game. You got all your characters. They're the like little chibi versions of their movie counterparts. Pretty good soundtrack as well. So looks good, sounds good, plays good. So I'm gonna pick that up every time. So yeah, Ghostbusters 2 on the Game Boy. This was 6,400 yen, which I'm gonna put the price up here, but in my head I think that's like 50, maybe 52 bucks, which is kind of steep for a Game Boy game, but it's like a very rare occurrence to actually come across this particular game, and then the box is like in perfect condition, and so is the cartridge, manual, everything. So this I just couldn't pass on. So Ghostbusters 2 on the Game Boy. I'm actually going to be sending that out to a fella. I think he's going to enjoy that quite a lot. Next up, got a game here on the Saturn. Mostly like this is a find of the day because it's how cheap it is. But this is Sakura Wars Columns. And if you haven't played Sakura Wars Columns, maybe you've played just regular Columns, because that's what this is. It's Columns with Sakura Wars characters, and it's a one-on-one Columns game. I like competitive puzzle games like Puyo Puyo or Tetris Battle Gaiden. I like games like that. There's a gimmick here, though, when you're playing just a single-player game. Sakura Wars, there's a lot of like visual novel stuff, like interacting with characters and making choices that like affect your relationship with those characters. Same thing here. When you're playing like a story mode, you can be talking to the next character you're going to play, and depending on how you talk to them, you can actually make the next game a little easier or a little more difficult. So the difficulty adjusts like depending on how you deal with the characters you're playing against. So that's a cool like way to work in like the gimmick of Sakura Wars into a Columns games. Other than that though, just a solid, it's Columns. It is what it is. It's like a classic puzzle game. It's a lot of fun. You can play competitively against the computer. You can play, versus with another person, or you can just play like an endless Columns mode and have fun with that. So I like that a lot. So this is a good game. Just a good like revamp of an old classic, and it was 1,050 yen. So I'm gonna put that up there, but that's like $7 or something like that. So that I can still find Sega Saturn games that I can pick up for like $7 or something like that. So that's why. It's a really good game, and it was also really cheap. So I like that. That's an actual deal. If you can get a good game at a good price, that's a deal. Like if you can get a really good game, but it's like rare, so you're still paying like 50 to 100 bucks on it, that's like a nice pickup. That's fun, but is it like a deal? Like it's more exciting to find games that are actually like cheap that you can pick up for the price of a value meal or something. On the other hand though, I got some PC Engine CD games here. First up, we got Sidearms Special. This is a good game. Again, another one I picked up on the cheap. If you've never played Sidearms, it's a Capcom shoot 'em up, although this one I believe was ported by NEC Avenue. And you're a giant mech flying around shooting things, so it's already cool. And then you can get lots of different power-ups, lots of different weapons, a powerful laser, all that kind of cool stuff. This one, it has standard and BC version, it says. So I guess you have like the original arcade version of Sidearms, and then there's like the updated version for the PC Engine, which has some incredible music, by the way. The music on this thing is fantastic. You're a huge mech flying around, blasting stuff, and then you can fire to the right or left, I believe. It's almost like a precursor to Forgotten Worlds, where that game, you could side-scrolling shooter where you can fire in all 8 directions. Here you can fire in 2 directions, and you're a big, cool mech, which I think this is the same mech that has appeared, or at least appeared in like a bunch of Capcom games, where like you would pick up like a power-up or something, or even like your little cursor to like select a mode on Street Fighter 2 or something. I believe like this is the mech that they used for like a bunch of stuff. It's Hyperdyne Sidearms Special. So yeah, this is a really cool game, fun shooter on your PC Engine. The case was kind of dirty, like it's kind of ratty, but honestly, because Sidearms, this is usually like costs at least twice as much. So I got this for like half of what I normally see it for, and for the most part, from what I can tell, it's because like the case is dirty. And it's kind of like, you know, a little bit grody and discolored, but I can, you know, probably just clean it up myself, or like if worse comes to worse, I can just kind of like swap this out, cannibalize like the case of like a much like cheaper, more common game. But yeah, Sidearms Special, damn fine game. Was happy to pick that up. Oh, the price, 2,800 yen. So it's like 20 bucks for Sidearms Special. That ain't bad. And last, certainly not least, the most expensive game I picked up today, but also the most uncommon and like the one I was most excited to find. This is Asuka 120% Maxima Burning Fest. And if you've never played an Asuka game before, they're really fun, kind of like high-speed 2D fighters. They're like heavy on the combos. It's like one of the very early like all-girl fighters that became like much more prevalent later. This might have been like the first, like in that, you know, that genre, the all-girl fighter, the all-high school girl fighter, mind you, because in this game, all of the girls are from like different like clubs in their high school. So there's like, I think, wrestling club and like gymnastics. There's a volleyball club, baseball. So that chick, she fights with a baseball bat and a mitt. Actually, this might have had some influence on rival schools, I'm not sure, but they all fight for their different clubs because they're fighting to win this tournament, and they get a bunch of funding for their club or something. And your main character, Asuka, she's a member of the chemistry club, so she throws explosive chemicals at the other girls, which seems a little bit excessive. Like, I get it, like one girl throws baseballs, the other one does karate or whatever. This girl like throws like explosive burning, like she gives you chemical burns. That's pretty hardcore. But anyway, it's a pretty cool game. They're fun. There's like a bunch of sequels. They're on the Saturn, they're on the PlayStation, there's probably a bunch of PC versions as well. The one and only version on the PC Engine CD is called Maxima Burning Fest, and it is pretty damn good. And pick this up, 7,160 yen, about what, 50 bucks if my math is correct. You're gonna see the actual number there. That's not bad. This is typically a game, when I come across it, it's definitely not 50 bucks, probably closer to like 80, 7,160 yen. Usually it's definitely over 100,000 yen when I come across it. There's a sticker here saying that there's like a little bit of like damage to the case, which I do not see any damage to the case at all, really. I don't really know what they're talking about. Maybe it's inside. And then it says there's a little bit of damage to the disc, like maybe some scratching on the disc, which is like super common. This game was released in 1995, so it's about 30 years old. I would expect there to be at least a few scratches on the disc. But anyway, that's my find of the day. Asuka 120% PC Engine for a very good price, all things considered. And that's it. That's the game hunt for today. Those are my finds of the day. Let me know down in the comments. What'd you think of all the games you saw today? What would you have picked up? Just from that Surugaya, I picked up like 17 games. So those are just the 4 that I thought were like the best deals, the best bang for my buck today. But yeah, down in the comments, what'd you think of the games I picked up, of what you saw in the video, and what have you picked up recently? Let me know. I always happy to hear from you. I like to go down there and read the comments and reply to as many as possible. So come back next Saturday. We're gonna wrap up this little Tachikawa trilogy. We're gonna go to the Heart Off in Tachikawa. That was pretty killer as well. So come back for that. Should be a lot of fun. Got some good games from there as well. With that being said, come back for the next one. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and take care, everybody. Goodbye.